Hey guys, tonight we dive into the sun-scorched, olive-oiled world of ancient Greece, where kids like you, yes, you scramble out of straw beds at dawn, already sweating, dodging a stray goat that's nibbling your sandal. You're a child in a mud brick house, and the day's already a gauntlet of heat, chores, and prayers to gods who don't seem to care. This isn't the Greece of marble statues or wise philosophers. It's a gritty struggle where you probably won't survive past lunch without a meltdown. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with where you're tuning in from and what time it is. It's always wild to see who's joining us across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up, not to an alarm's gentle chime, but to the sun blasting through tiny, glassless windows, turning your home into a clay oven. You're sprawled on a thin mat, maybe stuffed with straw if your family's got a few extra coins, but it's lumpy, and you're pretty sure something's crawling in it. The walls, rough stone or sun-dried mud bricks, radiate heat like they're personally mad at you. It's summer, and by sunrise, the air's thick, heavy, like breathing through a wool blanket. Your little brother's already up, chasing that goat out of the corner where it slept. Yep, the family goat gets better real estate than you. Winter's no better. Those same walls turn icy, and you're huddling under a threadbare cloak, hoping your toes don't freeze off. Insulation. Not a thing. Ceiling fans. Dream on. You're in 450 BCE. Kid, and comfort's a myth. Your home's a single room, maybe two if your dad's a hotshot potter. The whole family, parents, siblings, maybe a cranky aunt lives, eats, and argues in this cramped space. Privacy? That's for the gods. You step over your sister's spinning tools, dodge a clay jug your mom's filling, and try not to trip on the dirt floor that doubles as your hallway and trash dump. Small wooden shutters keep out the worst of the dust, but they also block any breeze, so you're stuck in a sweaty stalemate. If you're rural, your house is a stone's throw from a field, and you're already dreading the water-hauling chore. Urban, you're in Athens, squeezed between neighbors whose shouting matches are your morning podcast. Either way, the heat's got you beat before you've rubbed the sleep from your eyes. As a kid, your job's to help, not complain. You're sent to fetch water from the public fountain, a clay jar balanced on your shoulder, wobbling with every step. Spill it, and you're hauling another one, your back screaming. The fountain's a social hub. Old men gossip, women trade jabs, but you're just trying not to drop the jar and become the village meme. Back home, your mom's grinding barley, and you're roped into sweeping or feeding that goat, who, frankly, has more swagger than you. Kids didn't get a free pass. By 7, you're a mini adult, learning to weave, herd, or haggle. Historians still argue whether Greek children had any real playtime. Some say toys like rattles and clay animals prove a softer side. Others claim you were too busy surviving to toss a ball. Let's talk quirky. Some Greek homes had a sacred snake living in the walls, believed to bring good luck. You're told it's a guardian, but you're side-eyeing it every time it slithers near your mat. Mainstream fact. Most houses centered around a courtyard where you'd eat, work, and pray at a small altar to Hestia, goddess of the hearth. That altar's your Wi-Fi router. Everything revolves around it. But don't get cozy. The courtyard's also where you dodge the sun's wrath, because there's no such thing as sunscreen, just prayers and a questionable hat. You're already sticky, and the day's barely started. Your tunic's clinging in places it shouldn't, and you're dreaming of a breeze that'll never come. If you're lucky, your dad's got a story about Hercules to distract you, but it's hard to care when your stomach's growling and the goat's eyeing your sandal again. Speaking of luck, let's have a chuckle. You might think your modern bedroom is a mess, but at least it's not a literal barn. And here's a grim giggle. Some Greeks believed sleeping on the ground kept you humble. So your straw mat's practically a life lesson. Oh, and if you're wondering about a shower to cool off spoiler, you're about to learn bathing means a splash of water and a whole lot of hope. This is just the start, and you're already wilting. The heat's relentless, the chores are endless, and that sacred snake's giving you the creeps. You're not built for this, and the Greeks knew it. Only the toughest kids made it past childhood, a fact as cold as those winter walls. So, as you trudge toward breakfast, wondering if you'll ever feel clean, take a moment to appreciate your modern fan humming softly. Because in ancient Greece, the only hum is the buzz of flies, and they're not here to make you sleep better. You're about to face a day that'll test every ounce of your grit, and trust me, it's only getting hotter from here. You stumble out of your sweltering mud brick oven, still groggy, your stomach growling like a stray dog in the agora. The sun's barely up, but you're already dreaming of anything to fill the void. Welcome to breakfast in ancient Greece, where meal is a generous term for what's about to hit your plate. You're hoping for a spread, maybe some fruit or a warm loaf. But reality's got other plans. A stale barley brick called maza, a splash of wine water that's more water than wine. And if the gods are feeling extra cheeky, a fly buzzing around your crumbs. You wouldn't last a day here, not with this sorry excuse for fuel, and your modern coffee addiction's about to cry itself to sleep. You shuffle to the courtyard, where your mom's already kneading dough, her hands dusted with barley flour. The air smells faintly of ash and olives, but don't get your hopes up. No olive oil's being drizzled on your breakfast. You plop onto a low stool. No table, no fork, just you and a clay plate that's seen better days. Maza's the star of the show, a flat, dense cake made from ground barley and water, baked on hot stones or in the embers of last night's fire. It's gritty, chews like cardboard, and tastes like someone forgot flavor was invented. You try dunking it in your cup of oinos, a watered-down wine that's more about survival than sophistication. Water's dicey, no filtration. No Brita pitcher, so wine's the safer bet, even for kids. You sip, grimace, and wonder if this is what sadness tastes like. If you're lucky, there's a fig or two, maybe a handful of olives, but that's rich people stuff, and you're not rich. You're just a kid in a tunic, dodging your sister's elbow as she grabs her share. The wealthy might smear goat cheese on their bread or drizzle honey from a nearby beekeeper, but your family's scraping by, so you're stuck with maza and flies. Speaking of flies, here's a quirky tidbit. Greeks sometimes left offerings of food for household spirits so that buzzing pest might be a divine guest or just a freeloader. Either way, you're not sharing. Mainstream fact: barley was the backbone of the Greek diet, grown across the rocky hills, a cheap staple that kept everyone from slaves to soldiers alive, if not thrilled. You chew slowly, partly because maza's tough, partly because there's no rush. Meals are quick, no lingering over avocado toast vibes. If you're a girl, you're eating after the men, maybe in a corner with your mom and sisters, because Athens loves its gender divides. You glance at your dad, already halfway out the door, his bread gone in 3 bites. Historians still argue whether this segregation was about control or just practicality. Did men eat first to dominate, or because they had to hit the fields? Either way, you're last in line, and the maza's even staler by the time you get seconds. If there are seconds, let's make this body more engaging. Imagine your jaw working overtime, each bite a mini workout, your teeth begging for mercy. You're not just eating, you're wrestling with this barley brick, your tongue searching for any hint of joy. The wine water's no help. It's like drinking a diluted grape's bad day. You catch a whiff of your neighbor's cooking, maybe a rare stew, and your stomach twists with envy. You're not starving, but you're not satisfied. And that's the Greek way survival, not indulgence. A light joke to keep you awake. This breakfast makes your school cafeteria's mystery meat look like a Michelin star buffet. Another chuckle: the Greeks invented symposiums, fancy wine-soaked debates. But their breakfasts proved they saved their creativity for afternoon. You push your plate away, crumbs scattering, and notice the goat from your bedroom eyeing your leftovers. Nope, not today, buddy. You're already feeling the day's weight chores, heat, and the looming threat of a philosopher cornering you with questions about justice. Your mom's muttering about fetching more water, and you know you're on jar-carrying duty again. The maze sits heavy in your gut, less like fuel and more like a rock, but it's all you've got to power through. Here's a grim giggle some Greeks believed chewing tough bread-built character, so congrats. You're basically a hero for surviving breakfast. This meal's not just food, it's a window into a world where every bite was a gamble. No eggs, no fruit bowls, no cereal with cartoon mascots. If you're craving variety, you might sneak a wild herb from the hillside, but that's a chore for later, and you're already dreading the trek. The irony stings. These are the same people who gave us epic poetry and democracy, yet their breakfasts were a poetic tragedy. You stand, stretch, and brace for the day, knowing this barley brick's the least of your worries. The sun's climbing, your tunic's sticking, and you're about to learn that freshening up in ancient Greece is less about cleanliness and more about creative desperation. Hang in there, you're tougher than you think, but not tough enough for what's next. You're still picking barley crumbs from your teeth, your stomach grumbling over that lackluster maza, and the sun's already turning your courtyard into a skillet. You're itching to feel clean, but in ancient Greece, hygiene is less about sparkling freshness and more about a half-hearted wrestle with dirt. You're a kid, maybe 10, dodging chores to splash some water on your face, but don't expect a steamy shower or minty soap. This is a world where you rub olive oil on your skin, scrape it off with a metal blade, and call it a spa day, except it's not relaxing, and you're still sweaty. Your modern deodorant dreams are crumbling faster than that stale bread you just choked down. You trudge to the public fountain, clay jug in hand, because there's no running water at home. The fountain's crowded women gossip, old men grumble, and you're just trying not to spill. You dip your hands in the cool water, splashing your face, but it's not enough to cut through the dust caked on your neck. Bathing's a luxury, save for evenings, if at all, and usually happens at home in a shallow basin. You're not near a fancy bathhouse. Those are for rich Athenians or later Hellenistic hipsters. So you make do. Your mom hands you a small vial of olive oil, the Greek answer to everything. You slather it on, feeling like a human salad, then grab a strigil, a curved bronze blade, to scrape off the oil, dirt, and sweat. It's oddly satisfying, like peeling a sunburn, but you're still not clean, just less grimy. Education's part of your day, and it's wildly different for boys and girls. If you're a boy, you're headed to a school run by a pedagogos, a grumpy tutor who's half teacher, half babysitter. From age 7, you learn reading, writing, and arithmetic, scratching letters on wax tablets with a stylus. Music's big, you pluck a lyre, not because you're artsy, but because it's noble. Physical training's brutal wrestling, running, and throwing javelins to prep for that inevitable soldier life. You memorize Homer's epics, reciting lines about Achilles while dodging your teacher's stick. Wealthy boys get extra lessons in rhetoric, prepping for agora debates. If you're a girl, education's a different story. You stay home, learning from your mom or a slave. Spinning wool, weaving, and cooking are your curriculum practical skills for marriage, not glory. Some elite girls learn to read a bit, maybe poetry, but it's rare. Your job's to be a good wife, not a scholar. Spartan girls are the outlier. They train in athletics, running and wrestling to breed strong warriors, but even they're not penning treatises. Here's a quirky tidbit: some Greek boys carried pet roosters to school, a status symbol like a flashy backpack, crowing through lessons. Mainstream fact education in Athens was private, not state-run, so only families with cash could afford it. Poor kids worked fields or shops instead. Historians still argue whether girls' limited education was purely practical or a deliberate tool to keep them invisible. Did society value their domestic role? or fear their potential. Either way, you're stuck in this system, boy or girl, and it's shaping you faster than that strigil scrapes your skin. Back to hygiene teeth are a nightmare. No toothbrushes, no toothpaste. You might chew a twig or rub your gums with charcoal if your mom's feeling fancy. But mostly, you pray your teeth don't rot. Dental care's divine mercy, not science, and that stale Mazza's not helping. Body odor? Everyone's got it. Deodorant's centuries away, but you might dab on rose oil if your family's got spare coins. You're sweating through your tunic, the linen sticking like cling wrap. And you're not alone. Communal hygiene means you're oiling up next to neighbors. No privacy, just chatter. Let's chuckle your modern nose would stage a riot in this funk fest, but Greeks thought it was normal. Another giggle. Some Greeks used crocodile dung in cosmetics, talk about a beauty routine with bite. And here's a grim one, bad hygiene meant infections. So that scrape from your strigil could land you in a feverish prayer session. You're clean now, but it's a loose term. Your hair's still dusty, your feet gritty from sandals or lack thereof, and you're dreading the day's heat. If you're a boy, school's calling, and you're lugging your wax tablet, hoping your rooster doesn't embarrass you. If you're a girl, you're back to spinning wool, your fingers aching, dreaming of the stories your brother's learning. Either way, hygiene's a ritual, not a result. You glance at the family goat, who's somehow unbothered by the filth, and envy its chill. The sun's climbing, and you're off to face a day of lessons, chores, or both. Your body a canvas of dust and determination. And trust me, that tunic's about to make your next move. A wardrobe gamble pins, and breezes don't mix. You've just scraped off the day's grime with that strigil. Your skin still slick with olive oil and dust when it's time to get dressed, or at least attempt it. In ancient Greece, your wardrobe's no closet of choices, but a single linen rectangle ready to betray you. You're 11, standing in your sweltering courtyard, the sun scorching your shoulders, wrestling with a chiton or himation, praying it holds through the day's chaos. Forget your cozy sweatpants. In 450 BCE, clothing's a puzzle, and one wrong move leaves you flashing the agora. Your modern fashion sense is weeping, but survival trumps style, and this tunic's got a vendetta. You grab your chiton, a lightweight linen sheet, and drape it like a chiton burrito. It's not sewn, just a square you fold, wrap, and pin with a bronze brooch sharper than your mom's glare when you spilled the water jug. Your mom spun this linen, hours grinding flax into thread on a spindle, weaving it on a loom that hums like your home's heartbeat. You tie a belt to keep it from dragging, but it flaps in the breeze like a rebellious sail. A gust hits, and you're scrambling to avoid exposing yourself at festivals. You'd wear it crisp for the gods, but today, it's a sweaty mess. The hymation's worse, a heavy wool cloak for winter, draped over one shoulder, leaving you half-covered and fully irritated. No underwear, no bras. You're one pin slip from a philosophical debate about dignity. Footwear's grim. If your family's got coins, you've got leather sandals, stitched from tough hide, slapping against sun-baked stones. They're no match for thorns or the dung-strewn paths you dodge like an Olympic sport. Poorer kids. Maybe you. Go barefoot. Your soul's hardening on dirt roads, doubling as the village landfill. You envy that family goat from your bedroom. Its hooves laugh at your blisters. Sun protection's scarce, no SPF. Just a farmer's hat if you're lucky. In Athens, your chiton's light linen, but up north in Thessaly, folks layer wool against the chill same struggle. Different fabric. Your shoulders are pink by noon, and the Aegean sun doesn't care if you're a kid or a poet. You're still stinging from Section 3's education divide. Boys get Homer. Girls get wool and clothing mirrors. This, boys wear shorter chitons, practical for wrestling in school, prepping for soldier or orator life. Girls' chitons are longer, looser, keeping you modest while you spin thread or haul water. Spartan girls, ever the rebels. sport thigh-high tunics to flaunt athletic prowess. You're not Spartan, so you're stuck in a linen tent, tripping over the hem while your brother sprints to lessons. Mainstream fact Greek clothing was linen or wool, hand-woven by women and slaves, a grueling task that clothed families but chained them to looms. Quirky tidbit: Tyrian purple dye, so costly it was fit for kings, marked elite status. Too bad, it's worth more than your house. You adjust your chiton, cursing the pin digging into your shoulder. You're sweating, not just from heat, but from keeping this outfit intact. Girls, you're dodging your mom's lecture on keeping your hem clean. Good luck on these filthy streets. Boys, you're late for school, and your pedagogos will smack you if your tunic's a mess. Historians still argue whether clothing was practical for heat or a status flex. Did loose fits prioritize comfort, or did extra fabric scream wealth? You're not feeling fancy. You're a walking laundry disaster. Let's chuckle your skinny jeans would make Athenians laugh until they choked on their maza. Another giggle. Some Greeks knotted tunics for a custom fit. Picture you, a kid, rocking a DIY crop top in the market. Grim one a loose chiton could snag on a cartwheel, turning your market trip into a public flop. You glance at your neighbor, an old man in a tattered himation, and see everyone's in this struggle. Rich folks flaunt saffron cloaks, but you're stuck with off-white linen stained from your oil-scraping bath. Your feet throb, sandals or not, dreading the trek to market or school. The streets are dust, dung, and broken pottery. Your hem collecting it all. You pass men heading to the gymnasium, where nudity's fine for athletics. But your flapping chiton's a scandal in the market. Girls, you're back to the house, weaving wool instead of words. Boys, you're off to recite poetry or dodge javelins. Your tunic a sweaty liability. The day's heating up. Your outfit's no help. Your proof Greek fashion was less style, more survival against goat piles and breezes. You pause, fiddling with that cursed brooch, the goat eyeing you like it knows you're outmatched. You are. This wardrobe tests your patience, and you're failing. The sun climbs, your skin burns, and you dream of ditching this linen nightmare. But there's no escape. You're dressed, barely, and chores or lessons await. Surviving Greece isn't just enduring heat or food, it's keeping dignity when your tunic's plotting mutiny. The next challenge, military service, makes this wardrobe fiasco feel like a festival. You're still smoothing that rebellious chiton, the pin now a permanent thorn in your shoulder as you trudge out of the courtyard, the sun mocking your sunburned feet. You're 11, barely surviving the heat and that maza breakfast, but ancient Greece has a new way to crush your spirit military service. If you're a boy. Congratulations, you're not just a kid. You're a future soldier, whether you like it or not. The moment you hit your teens, you're training with wooden spears, sweating in formation, and praying you can afford a shield. This isn't optional. It's your civic duty, your social badge, and probably your one-way ticket to a battlefield. Girls, you're spared the spear but not the stakes. Your brother's fates shape your world. Ancient Greece's obsession with war makes survival a daily gamble, and you're not built for this gauntlet. You're in Athens, where every free male citizen is a soldier by default. By 14, you're drilling with other boys, learning the phalanx, a shoulder-to-shoulder wall of shields and spears that's as much about grit as tactics. Your trainer, a grizzled veteran, barks orders while you stumble through maneuvers, your chiton sticking to your back. In Sparta, its worst boys start at 7 in the Agog, a brutal boot camp where you're starved, whipped, and taught to steal food to survive. You're Athenian, so it's gentler 2 years of mandatory training in your late teens, then decades on call. But gentle is relative. You're hauling a heavy hoplite shield, learning to thrust a spear, and dodging mock blows that feel too real. You're not a philosopher yet, but you're already wondering why peace is a myth. Here's the kicker: you buy your own gear. A bronze helmet, breastplate, greaves, shield, and spear cost more than your family's yearly bread budget. Wealthy kids show up like ancient Iron Men. Poorer ones, maybe you, make do with leather scraps or borrowed gear, praying it holds against Persian arrows. If you can't afford anything, you're a light-armed skirmisher Greek for cannon fodder. Naval service is another trap. Athens' triremes need rowers, and you're chained to an oar for hours, blisters bleeding, while enemies ram your ship. Mainstream fact, the phalanx was Greece's military backbone, its tight formation key to victories like Marathon in 490 BCE. Quirky tidbit, some Spartans fought with pet dogs. Trained to guard camps, your family goat's looking pretty useless now. This isn't just training, it's a cultural obsession. Greece is a patchwork of city-states: Athens, Sparta, Thebes constantly bickering over trade routes, honor, or who looked at whose olive grove funny. The Peloponnesian War, brewing in your lifetime, pits Athens against Sparta for decades, killing thousands. Even philosophers like Socrates strap on armor. No one's exempt. You're not fighting for glory, but survival lose a war, and your city's enslaved or burned. Historians still argue whether this militarism was defensive or ego-driven. Did Greece face endless threats, or did pride spark these fights? Either way, you're a pawn in their game, and the board's soaked in blood. Insight into Greek history. You can't survive here because war's not a job, it's life. From childhood, you're groomed for conflict in a society where peace is just the pause between invasions. The Persian Wars, ending just before your time, left scars, cities razed, families torn. Now, city-states turn on each other, fueled by rivalry and fragile alliances. You're not just dodging spears, but disease, starvation, and betrayal. A single defeat could mean slavery or exile. Even victory leaves you limping. No veterans care, just scars and stories. Your modern self, used to Wi-Fi and takeout, can't handle this relentless grind. Every day's a roll of the dice, and the odds hate you. You're panting after drills, your wooden spear splintering, when you overhear older boys talk about Thermopylae 300 Spartans against a Persian horde. It's heroic, sure, but you're more focused on not fainting. Your trainer smacks your shield arm, shouting about discipline, and you wonder if you'll ever hold a real spear without shaking. Girls, you're back home, weaving or fetching water. But war's shadow looms. Your job's to marry and birth future soldiers. Your worth tied to their survival. You hear whispers of battles, praying your brother returns, because widows and orphans don't eat well in Athens. Let's chuckle your gym class dodgeball was brutal, but it's a spa day compared to phalanx training. Another giggle. Some Greeks painted scary faces on shields to spook enemies. Your art skills would probably just make them laugh. Grim one, lose your shield in battle, and you're shamed for life because it means you ran while your buddies died. You glance at your training mates, some cocky, some terrified, and realize you're all in this meat grinder together. Wealthy kids boast about their bronze gear. You're stuck with a hand-me-down helmet that smells like your uncle's wine breath. Your arms ache, your chiton's soaked, and you're dreading the march home. The agora's buzzing with war talk, Sparta's latest jab, Persian rumors, and you feel the weight of it all. You pass a statue of Athena, goddess of war, and toss a quick prayer, because you'll need her if you're ever called to fight. Girls, you're dodging your mom's loom lecture, but you're also stitching cloaks for soldiers, your fingers pricked and raw, the sun's climbing, and you're already exhausted. Your body a map of bruises and blisters. You're not ready for war, but Greece doesn't care. Every boy's a soldier, every girl's a support crew, and the battlefield's always closer than you think. You slump against a wall, catching your breath, the goat from your bedroom nibbling nearby like it's mocking your fatigue. You're not cut out for this, and you know it. The day's barely half done, and you're dreaming of a world without spears or shields. But there's no escape. Military service is your destiny, and it's shaping you whether you're ready or not. You're about to learn that life in Greece isn't just about surviving the heat or your chiton's betrayal. It's about facing a society where war's the only constant. And trust me, the next hurdle, women's hidden struggles, will make you glad you're only dodging spears for now. You're trudging home from phalanx drills, your arms screaming from hefting that wooden spear, the chitin still conspiring against you with every sweaty step. The sun's relentless, and you're an 11-year-old boy dreaming of shade. But if you're a girl, ancient Greece has a different kind of cage waiting. You're not dodging spears, but you're trapped in a world of chores, silence, and invisible walls. As a girl in Athens, your life's a treadmill of domestic duties, spinning wool, hauling water, minding siblings while the men debate democracy and glory. You're not just sidelined, you're erased from the story, your worth tied to a loom or a womb. This isn't a day you'd survive. It's a lifetime of being told to stay small, and your modern self would be clawing at the mud brick walls. You're in the women's quarters, the gynecon, a dim corner of your home where sunlight barely sneaks through latticed windows. Your mom's at the loom, her fingers calloused from weaving the linen that keeps your brother's chitin flapping. You're learning to spin wool, your hands clumsy with the spindle, dropping it more than you'd admit. The air smells of dust and olive oil, and that family goat's bleating outside, probably living a freer life than you. Your education is this weave: cook, clean, marry young, maybe 14, to a man twice your age, chosen by your dad like you're a trade deal. You won't vote, own land, or speak in the agora. If you step out without a male escort, whispers follow, branding you a courtesan or, worse, a Spartan. Your world's the house, and the house is your prison. In Athens, women are ghosts in public life. You can't attend plays or symposiums, those wine-soaked debates where men wax poetic. You're barred from the gymnasium, where your brother wrestles naked, and the assembly, where he'll one day vote. Your social life's a sliver, maybe a festival like the Thesmophoria, where women gather to honor Demeter, but even that's about fertility, not freedom. If you're wealthy, you manage slaves, but it's still unpaid CEO work with zero respect. Poorer women, maybe you, toil harder, grinding barley or selling herbs in the market, but always under a man's shadow. Mainstream fact: Athenian women couldn't inherit property directly. It passed through male guardians, locking them out of economic power. Quirky tidbits: some women became priestesses, like those serving Athena, gaining rare public roles. Imagine you, a kid, dreaming of that escape while untangling wool. Sparta's different, but don't get too excited. Spartan girls train like boys running, wrestling to birth strong warriors. They wear those scandalous short tunics, own property, and speak bolder, but their freedom's a leash tied to war. Your job's still to produce soldiers, and if your husband dies, you're stuck, unable to remarry without permission. You're not Spartan, so you're in Athens, where silence is your script. Historians still argue whether this was pure oppression or cultural necessity. Did Athens confine women to stabilize society, or to crush their potential? Either way, you're not debating, you're scrubbing pots, your voice a whisper, even in your own home. Insight into Greek history. You can't survive here because women's lives were a suffocating paradox. Greece birthed democracy and philosophy, yet half its people were voiceless, their talents buried under domestic drudgery. The same culture that worshipped Athena, goddess of wisdom, expected real women to stay invisible. Political instability, think Peloponnesian War, made male control tighter, fearing women's influence could disrupt the fragile order. You're a modern soul craving agency, but in Athens, agency's a male privilege. A single day of weaving while your brother recites Homer would spark a rebellion in you. But rebellion means exile, or worse. This isn't just a tough day, it's a life sentence of erasure, and your spirit would break before supper. You're back at the loom, your fingers raw, when your mom snaps at you for daydreaming. You're supposed to be prepping for marriage, but the thought of a stranger's house makes your stomach twist. You hear men outside arguing about war or taxes and envy their noise. Boys, you're not off the hook. You're back from drills, knowing your sister's life is this, and it weighs on you. You both share the same sun-baked home, but her world's a shadow of yours. The thesmophoria is coming, and you, a girl, might sneak a glimpse of freedom. But it's fleeting. You're more likely to be scolded for a crooked thread than praised for a clever thought. Let's chuckle, your tick-tock dance moves would flop harder than a poorly pinned chiton in this women's quarters. Another giggle. Some Athenian women hid love poems under their looms. Imagine you scribbling secrets while your mom's not looking. Grim one, a bad marriage could leave you divorced. Return to your dad's house, your dowry gone, and your future dimmer than that Gineacon corner. You glance at your mom, her face etched with years of this life, and realize you're next. Even heteri, those educated courtesans, have more freedom, but that path's a scandal you can't touch. Your back aches from hunching over the loom, the spindle a torture device in disguise. You're sent to fetch water, your chiton dragging, the jug heavy on your shoulder. The fountain's a brief escape, but men's stares make you shrink. Boys, you're limping home, your shield arm bruised, but at least you're seen. Girls, you're invisible, your work the backbone of this house, yet unthanked. The sun's high, and you're already exhausted. Your dreams of anything else poetry, adventure crushed under wool and duty. You're not built for this. And Greece knows it. Women's strength holds up the city. But the city demands they stay hidden. You pause, the spindle slipping, the goat bleeding like it's judging your knots. You're trapped, and you feel it. The day's half gone, and you're dreaming of a world where your voice matters. But there's no escape. You're a girl in Athens, and your role's carved in stone. Surviving Greece isn't just about enduring war or heat. It's about swallowing a life where you're less than the men you serve. And trust me, the next challenge democracy's fine print will make you glad you're only weaving for now. Because even freedom here comes with a catch. You're slipping out of the gynecon, your fingers still sore from that spindle, or limping back from phalanx drills, your chiton a sweaty betrayal. The sun's high, and you're an 11-year-old in Athens, dreaming of a break. But ancient Greece doesn't do downtime. You hear the agora buzzing, men shouting about laws and wars, and you think maybe you, a boy, could join that someday. Then reality hits democracy. Athens' pride isn't for you, not yet, and definitely not if you're a girl. It's a shiny idea, but the fine print's brutal. Only a sliver of sunburned men get a say, leaving you and almost everyone else silenced. This isn't a system you'd navigate. It's a club that'd slam its door in your face, and your modern craving for fairness would have you packing for Sparta by noon. You're tagging along to the ecclesia, the assembly hill where Athens decides everything: taxes, wars, who gets exiled. You're a boy, too young to vote, but you're watching, wide-eyed, as men over 18 born to Athenian parents raise hands and shout. It's chaotic, like a Reddit thread come to life. But with spears, you're amazed ordinary guys, not just kings, shape the city's fate. But then you notice who's missing: women, like your sister, stuck weaving; foreigners, like the merchant who sells your figs; slaves, who built this hill's steps. That's nearly 90% of Athens. Voiceless. If you're a girl, you're not even here. You're home, dodging loom lectures, your opinion less valuable than that family goat's bleat. Democracy's a boys' club, and you're either too young or too female to crash it. You watch men propose laws, debate like it's an Olympic sport, and vote by show of hands. No career politicians, just farmers, potters, and your uncle who thinks sea monsters are real. You could be picked by lottery to run the treasury or judge a trial. No resume needed. It's thrilling, until you realize your fishmonger neighbor might decide a war's budget. Then there's ostracism once a year. Citizens scribble a name on broken pottery ostraca, and if someone gets 6,000 votes, they're exiled for a decade. No trial, just vibes. You overhear men joking about banishing Aristides for being too honest, talk about a popularity tax. Mainstream fact Athenian democracy, born around 508 BCE under Cleisthenes, was the world's first direct system, letting citizens vote on laws. Quirky tidbit ostraca were recycled trash, so your exile vote might be scratched on a chipped wine jug, reduce, reuse, banish. This isn't just politics, it's a social machine that chews up outsiders. If you're a medic foreign resident, you pay taxes but can't vote. Slaves. Your property, not people. Women. Your roles birthing voters, not being one. Even as a boy, your years from mattering. And one wrong move, say, cheering the wrong speaker could land your dad on an ostraca. You're awed by the noise, but it's a reminder this freedom's for a few, and you're not one of them. Historians still argue whether Athenian democracy was revolutionary or elitist. Did it empower the masses, or just a privileged clique? Either way, you're on the sidelines, and it stings. Insight into Greek history. You can't survive here because democracy's promise is a social mirage. Athens in the 5th century BCE is a powder keg of ambition, rivalry, and exclusion, where only male citizens hold power, leaving women, foreigners, and slaves most of society in the dust. The Peloponnesian War's shadow looms, fueling paranoia and tightening control. Outsiders are distrusted, women confined to keep order. Your modern sense of equality, honed by social media and protest marches, would revolt against this gated system. A day of watching men vote while your sister weaves or a slave haul stones would spark outrage. But outrage here gets you ostracized or worse. This isn't just a tough day. It's a society wired to silence you, and your voice would crack under the weight. You're lingering at the ecclesia's edge, dust coating your sandals as men disperse, some boasting, others muttering about Sparta's latest jab. You're a boy, itching to join, but you're years away, and your dad's warning glance says, don't get cocky. Girls, you're home, hearing secondhand Agra gossip, your world illumined, and a prayer for a good marriage. You both feel the system's squeeze boys trained for a democracy that might spit them out. Girls are excluded entirely. You pass a medic selling olives, his taxes funding this assembly, yet he's as voiceless as you. Even the goat, munching a stray weed, seems freer than half of Athens. Let's chuckle your school elections were a mess, but at least they didn't end in a decade-long timeout. Another giggle. Some Athenians carved insults on ostraca, like ancient Twitter shade, imagine your name on a pot, labeled too loud. Grim one ostracism spared your property, but good luck explaining a 10-year gap on your resume. You glance at the crowd, spotting a man who looks too confident, probably next year's exile. Rich citizens flaunt purple-dyed cloaks, but you're in dusty linen, your status clear not yet a player in this game. Your feet ache, whether from standing or weaving, and the agora's heat is merciless. You're a boy, dreaming of voting, but the path's paved with spears and scrutiny. Girls, you're dodging your mom's call to grind barley. Your dream's irrelevant. The assembly's done, but its echo lingers powers for the few, and you're not invited. You pass Athena's statue, her owl glaring like she knows your place. Boys, you're off to more drills, your shield arm begging for mercy. Girls, you're back to the gynecon, your spindle waiting, the day's grinding on, and you're already spent, your heart heavy with a system that lifts some while crushing others. You pause, kicking a pebble, the goat eyeing you like it senses your frustration. You're out of your depth, and Athens doesn't care. The day's half done, and you're dreaming of a world where everyone's heard, but there's no escape. You're a kid in a democracy that's more exclusive than a VIP list. Surviving Greece isn't just about heat or war. It's navigating a society where your voice is a privilege, not a right. And trust me, the next hurdle, slavery's grim reality, will make this fine print feel like a love letter. You're trudging away from the ecclesia, your sandals or bare feet kicking up dust, the sting of democracy's exclusivity still burning. You're an 11-year-old in Athens, boy or girl, and the agora's hum is a reminder of your place on the sidelines, watching men play power games. But there's a darker shadow in this sun-baked city, one that makes your Chaitan's betrayal or the Ganaiacon's confines seem trivial. Slavery's everywhere, woven into Greece's bones like the threads of your mom's loom. You see them slaves carrying jugs, sweeping courtyards, or disappearing into the silver mines. They're not just workers, they're the silent machinery of this glorious civilization, and their lives are a brutal truth you can't escape. You wouldn't last a day in their world, and even watching it unfold would break your modern heart. You're in the market, clutching a clay jar for water, when you notice a slave, maybe your age, hauling a heavier one. His tunic's ragged, his eyes downcast, and you know he's not paid, not free, not even a person by law. Slaves are everywhere in your home, cooking the maza you choked down, in the fields, harvesting the barley, in the mines, choking on toxic dust. They're not a race or a single group Greeks, Thracians, Syrians, anyone caught on the wrong side of a war or a pirate's net. Your neighbor's slave might be a Greek from a rival city, sold after a siege. Your family's got one, maybe two, because even modest households rely on them. They sleep where your goat does, eat scraps, and live under the threat of a whip or worse. You watch the slave boy at the fountain, his movements quick, fearful of a master's shout. He might cook, clean, or nurse your baby sister, but he's property, not family. In wealthier homes, slaves run businesses or teach kids like you to read, but they're still chained by law. No rights, no voice beatings, branding, or death are a master's whim. In the silver mines of Lorien, south of Athens, slaves' kids included crawl through dark, narrow shafts, lungs burning, lives snuffed out for coins that fund Athens' navy. You shudder, thinking of your own chores. They're nothing compared to this. Mainstream fact slavery was central to Athens' economy, with tens of thousands of slaves powering agriculture, mining, and households by the 5th century BCE. Quirky tidbit, some slaves were public workers. Like Athens' police force of Scythian archers, imagine a slave cop patrolling your street. This isn't just labor, it's a system that dehumanizes. You're a boy, training for the phalanx, but slaves build the ships you'll row. You're a girl, weaving in the gynecon, but a slave girl might spin beside you, her work unthanked, her life unowned. Even philosophers, like Aristotle, call slavery natural, saying some are born to serve. You hear this in the Agora, and it twists your gut. Your modern self knows better. But here, it's gospel. Historians still argue whether slavery's acceptance was economic necessity or moral blindness. Did Athens need slaves to thrive? Or did it just refuse to question the cost? Either way, you're complicit, living in a house where human beings are tools, and it's a weight you can't shake. Insight into Greek history, you can't survive here because slavery's brutality isn't just physical. It's a moral quagmire that would crush your conscience. Athens' golden age, with its temples and democracy, rests on the backs of people who had no choice. The Peloponnesian War, raging in your time, fuels the slave trade as defeated enemies are sold to fund more battles. Your modern values equality. Freedom clash with a society where even enlightened thinkers justify owning humans. A day of seeing kids like you enslaved, beaten, or worked to death would unravel you. But in Greece, it's just Tuesday. You'd beg for a world where dignity isn't a privilege, but here, it's a luxury for the free. You're back home, the slave boy from the fountain now sweeping your courtyard. You want to talk, but fear stops you, his master's watching. You're a boy, headed to school, but you know slaves built the Parthenon's marble steps. You'll climb one day. Girls, You're weaving, but a slave girl's at the loom too, her hands as raw as yours, her future bleaker. You hear your dad praise democracy, oblivious to the irony the system he loves enslaves half the city, even freed slaves. Rare as they are, can't vote or own land, they're free, but not equal. You pass a market stall, a slave selling olives, his eyes empty, and you wonder how anyone lives like this. Let's chuckle your modern job complaints pale next to a slave shift in the mines. Talk about a bad career day. Another giggle. Some slaves were trusted to run shops, probably better at haggling than your uncle with the sea monster obsession. Grim one, a slave's life was so cheap, a bad harvest could mean they're sold or starved to keep the goats fed. You glance at your family's slave, quiet in the corner, and feel a pang. Everyone's caught in this system. Masters, slaves, even you, a kid who just wants to eat maza without guilt. Your feet drag, whether from market dust or loom fatigue. And the agora's noise feels hollow. You're a boy, learning Homer, but the slave who carries your tablet can't read it. Girls, you're stuck in the gynecon, but the slave girl beside you dreams of freedom you take for granted. The sun's climbing, and you're tired, not just from chores, but from the weight of a world that runs on suffering. You pass Athena's temple, her statue gleaming, built by hands that weren't free. Boys, you're off to more drills, your spear heavier with this truth. Girls, you're back to weaving, the slave's silence louder than your spindle's hum. You pause, the goat nibbling your sandal, its ignorance a cruel kind of bliss. You're out of your depth, and Greece doesn't flinch. The day's wearing on, and you're dreaming of a world where no one's owned. But there's no escape. You're a kid in a society where slavery's the foundation, not a footnote. Surviving Greece isn't just about heat or war, it's living with a system that breaks people while you eat their bread. And trust me, the next hurdle Greek medicine's gamble will make you wish you were only dodging moral dilemmas. You're stumbling away from the agora, the weight of slavery's grim reality settling in your chest, your sandals gritty with market dust. You're an 11-year-old in Athens, boy or girl, the sun scorching your neck. And that chitin's still plotting your downfall. You're feeling off. Maybe it's the maza, maybe the heat. But in ancient Greece, feeling sick is a gamble with no good odds. Healthcare's a mix of herbs, prayers, and hope. And if you're banking on a doctor to save you, you're in for a rude awakening. You're praying to Asclepius, clutching a questionable poultice, and wondering if that family goat's got a better health plan. You wouldn't last a day trusting Greek medicine, and your modern faith in antibiotics would be crying by bedtime. You're in your cramped home, sprawled on a straw mat, your forehead hot, your stomach churning. There's no hospital, no thermometer, just your mom muttering about humors and fetching a clay bowl. Greek doctors, like Hippocrates, believe illness comes from an imbalance of 4 fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Too much blood, your feverish time to bleed you. Too much phlegm. Coughing means fasting or a walk by the sea. You're a kid, not a scholar. So this sounds like nonsense, but it's all they've got. Your mom crushes poppy seeds for pain, maybe mixes garlic and vinegar for your fever, but it's as much guesswork as science. If you're lucky, she prays to Asclepius, the healing god, and you hope his sacred snakes don't slither into your dreams. No clinics here, just your home, or, if you're fancy, a healing sanctuary called an Asclepion. You're not fancy, so you're stuck with local remedies. Your aunt swears by boiled figs. Your neighbor suggests a compress of something scraped off a goat. Surgery's rare and terrifying, no anesthesia, just a leather strap to bite and a bronze knife that's seen better days. A broken arm might get splinted, but a deep cut. Good luck avoiding sepsis. Childbirth, if you're a girl thinking ahead, is a death trap mothers and babies die often. Midwives wielding herbs and prayers as their only tools. Mainstream fact, Hippocrates, active around 460 BCE, laid the foundation for Western medicine with his oath and humor theory. still influential centuries later. Quirky tidbit: Greeks sometimes slept in Asclepia, hoping healing dreams would cure them. Imagine napping your way to health with a snake as your nurse. Trade shapes this medical mess. You're sipping a poppy seed brew, the seeds likely traded from Egypt or Cyprus, carried by slaves on creaky ships. Greek trade, thriving in your time, brings healing herbs like myrrh and frankincense from Arabia, swapped for Athens olive oil. Olive oil, pressed by slaves, isn't just for your strigil, it's a wound salve, traded across the Mediterranean. Wine, another trade staple, doubles as an antiseptic when herbs run dry. It's shipped to Thrace for grain. Pottery, crafted in Athens workshops, carries these goods. Your mom's vinegar jar might be Corinthian. Slaves rode trade ships, load cargoes, and sell herbs in the agora, their labor tying Greece to Persia, Egypt, and Sicily. Your fever's treatment hinges on this trade web, but if the ships don't sail, you're stuck with whatever's in the backyard. This isn't just a bad day, it's a system rigged against you. You're a boy, sweating through your fever, while your dad haggles for imported myrrh. Girls, you're helping your mom crush herbs, knowing childbirth's risks loom in your future. Even Hippocrates can't save you if the gods or germs say no. Historians still argue whether Greek medicine was groundbreaking or guesswork did humorism advance science, or was it a fancy excuse for bleeding people dry? Either way, you're not feeling hopeful, clutching a garlic compress that smells worse than your goat. Insight into Greek history. You can't survive here because medicine's a lottery in a trade-driven world where war and disease don't wait for cures. The Peloponnesian War, simmering now, spreads plagues like the one that killed a third of Athens in 430 BCE. No herbs strong enough to stop it. Trade brings exotic remedies, but supply lines falter in war, leaving you with local weeds and prayers. Your modern reliance on clinics and pills would collapse in a society where a scratch could kill and doctors double as priests. A day of fever here, with no real treatment, would have you begging for a time machine. But in Greece, time's a one-way road to risk. You're shivering, despite the heat, as your mom chants to Asclepius, her hands sticky with vinegar. You're a boy, wishing for school instead of this mat. Girls, you're dreading the day you face childbirth's odds. The agora's trade bustle feels far away, but it's goods, wine, oil, herbs are your lifeline, if they arrive. You hear your dad barter for more poppy seeds, his voice tense. Even the goat, nibbling outside, seems unbothered, while you're battling a fever with nothing but hope and a questionable poultice. Let's chuckle. Your modern flu shot would laugh at this garlic compress talk about a spicy cure. Another giggle. Some Greeks used moldy bread on wounds. An accidental antibiotic, your science teacher would be proud. Grim one, a bad fever could mean no burial coins, leaving your soul wandering, not even the goat to mourn you. You're fading, the straw mat scratching your back, the air thick with herb fumes. Boys, you're missing drills, your spear untouched. Girls, you're spared the loom, but only because you're too weak to spin. The sun's climbing, and you're exhausted, not just from sickness, but from a world where health's a gamble. You pass the family altar, Hestia's flame flickering, and whisper a prayer. But the gods are fickle. Trade might bring a cure tomorrow, but tomorrow's not promised. You're not built for this, and Greece knows it. Medicine's a leap of faith, and you're not feeling lucky. You pause. The goats bleat cutting through your haze, its ignorance a cruel comfort. You're out of your depth, and Greece doesn't care. The day's dragging, and you're dreaming of a world with real doctors. But there's no escape. You're a kid in a society where sickness is a test, and the cure is often worse. Surviving Greece isn't just about war or slavery. It's trusting your life to herbs and gods who might not show up. And trust me, the next Hurdle Theater's emotional marathon will make you wish you were only dodging fevers. You're shivering through that fever. the garlic compress reeking worse than the family goat, your straw mat, a prickly reminder of how dicey Greek medicine is. You're an 11-year-old in Athens, boy or girl, the sun still blazing, and your chiton's a damp, crumpled mess from sweating it out. You're feeling a bit better. Maybe Asclepius heard your prayers, but the day's not done with you. The city's buzzing with the Dionysia, a festival where theater isn't just entertainment, it's a civic duty, a religious rite, and an emotional marathon that'll gut you. You're headed to an open-air theater, shoulder to shoulder with thousands, ready for plays that'll make you weep, laugh, and question your life. You wouldn't last a day in this dramatic crucible, and your modern Netflix binges would beg for mercy. You're trudging to the theater of Dionysus, carved into Athens' hillside, your sandals slipping on dusty paths. The air's thick with olive oil scent. Your bath still lingers and chatter about Aeschylus's latest tragedy. You're a boy, free to attend. Girls, you're stuck home, maybe hearing second-hand tales from your brother. The theater's free for citizens, but that's male citizens, women, slaves, and foreigners are mostly barred. You squeeze onto a stone bench, the crowd a sweaty sea of tunics, no cushions, no snacks, just you and the day-long spectacle. From dawn to dusk, you're watching tragedies, comedies, and satyr plays. No bathroom breaks unless you brave the hillside bushes. Mainstream fact, the Dionysia, held annually by the 5th century BCE, honored Dionysus, god of wine and theater, drawing thousands to compete for prizes. Quirky tidbit actors wore giant phallic props in comedies. Imagine your shocked kid at that stage strut. Trade fuels this theatrical frenzy. Olive oil, Greece's liquid gold, lights the lamps that let festivals run late. Pressed by slaves and traded to Egypt for papyrus used in scripts. Wine, another trade staple, flows freely, shipped to Thrace for grain. It's diluted, but keeps the crowd buzzing. Pottery, Athens's artistic export, decorates the theater with vases showing dramatic scenes, traded to Sicily for wheat. Slaves haul these goods, build stage props, and serve wine. Their labor knitting Greece to Persia and beyond. Your seats carved by slave hands, your festival fueled by olive oil from traded groves. Without trade, the Dionysia's just a few guys shouting in a field. Tragedies hit first, and they're brutal. You're watching Sophocles' latest, a tale of murder, betrayal, and gods wrecking families over a curse from 3 generations back. The actors, all men, wear towering masks and platform shoes, their voices booming across the hillside. The chorus chants, dances, and calls out the hero's flaws like an ancient X-feed. You're not just watching, you're feeling every stab of grief. Tears streaking your dusty face. Comedies follow, but they're not kid-friendly. Aristophanes mocks politicians and philosophers with crude jokes and those phallic props, the crowd roaring while you blush, satyr plays, half-goat antics. Wrap the day, but you're emotionally spent. Historians still argue whether theater was catharsis or propaganda. Did it unite Athens or push political agendas? Either way, you're raw, your heart wrung out like your chiton after a storm. Insight into Greek history. You can't survive here because theater's not escapism. It's a mirror of Greece's chaotic soul. The 5th century BCE is a cauldron of war, rivalry, and fragile democracy, with the Peloponnesian War tearing city-states apart. Theater forces you to face this tragedy's echo battlefield losses. Comedies jab at leaders fueling conflict. Trade, bringing olive oil and wine, makes these festivals grand, but war disrupts supply lines, starving the stage. Your modern self, used to scrolling past bad news, can't handle this raw, communal reckoning. A day of weeping over fictional kings while real wars loom would leave you emotionally bankrupt. But in Greece, it's how you process life. You're wedged between a potter and a farmer, their tunics as sweaty as yours. The crowd shouting at a bad line. You're a boy, overwhelmed, girls, you're home, weaving, but your brother's tales will haunt you. The actors' masks loom like nightmares, their words cutting deeper than your strigil. You're not passive, the audience boos, cheers, even throws olives at flops. It's democracy in action, louder than the ecclesia. The festival's a trade showcase too. Merchants hawk wine and oil nearby. Slaves carting vases painted with the play's heroes. You're dizzy from the heat, the drama, and the olive oil fumes, wishing for a nap, but stuck until dusk. Let's chuckle. Your school play was a mess, but at least it didn't last 12 hours with no popcorn. Another giggle. Some Athenians bribe judges for play prizes. Imagine your drama teacher taking drachmas for the lead role. Grim one, a bad tragedy could spark riots, turning your theater day into a brawl with no exit. You glance at the crowd, some weeping, some heckling, and feel the weight of shared pain. Rich men in saffron cloaks grab the best seats, but you're squished, your chitin stained from an olive you didn't dodge. Your back aches, stone bench unforgiving, and the Agorist trade hum feels distant. Boys, you're missing drills, but this feels like battle emotional shrapnel everywhere. Girls, you're spared, but the loom's no kinder. The sun's dipping, but the plays grind on, your heart battered by tales of fate and folly. You pass a Dionysus shrine, wine-soaked from offerings, and mutter a prayer. But the gods don't pause the show. Trade's bounty oil, wine, pottery makes this grand, but it's the crowd's raw pulse that hits hardest. You're not built for this, and Greece knows it. Theater's a test of soul, and you're failing. You shift, the goat-like satyr play starting, the crowd's laughter jarring your nerves. You're out of your depth, and Athens doesn't blink. The day's fading, and you're dreaming of a world with intermissions and chill. But there's no escape. You're a kid in a society where theater's a mirror, not a break. Surviving Greece isn't just about fevers or slavery. It's bearing your soul to stories that rip it apart, fueled by the olive oil trade that lights the stage. And trust me, the next hurdle, Socrates' endless questions, will make you wish you were only dodging tragic choruses. You're staggering out of the theater of Dionysus, your heart still raw from tragedies and your chitin crumpled from hours on that stone bench. You're an 11-year-old in Athens. Boy or girl, the sun dipping but still roasting, and the olive oil scent from your bath clings like a bad review. The Dionysia left you wrung out, but the agora's calling. It's chaos louder than the chorus you just escaped. Here, philosophy's not a dusty book. It's a street sport, and you're about to get tackled by a sandal-wearing Socrates asking, "What's justice you're dodging carts and crowds?" only to be cornered by questions that spiral into existential dread. You wouldn't last a day in this intellectual gauntlet, and your modern brain, craving TikTok's quick hits, would short-circuit by supper. You're weaving through the agora's traffic, a mess of dust, donkey hooves, and shouting vendors. Carts creak under loads of olive oil jars, wine amphorae, and pottery greases trade staples, hauled by slaves who dodge pedestrians like it's a game of survival. Donkeys bray, wheels crunch over broken pots, and you're sidestepping dung piles while clutching your water jug. The streets, unpaved and narrow, are a free-for-all, no traffic lights, just yelling. Merchants hawk olives from Crete, wine from Chios, grain from the Black Sea, their stalls clogging the paths. You're a boy, late for school. Girls, you're fetching water, wishing you could join the Agora's buzz. Managing life here means constant motion fetching, bartering, dodging carts, all while the sun and crowds test your patience. Philosophy's the real traffic jam. You're trying to slip past a stall when Socrates, all beard and no shoes, spots you. "What's courage?" he asks, eyes glinting like he's caught you stealing figs. You mumble something, but he's relentless, pulling you into a debate with random bystanders. Plato's nearby, scribbling notes, while Aristotle might tutor a kid like you later, shaping conquerors like Alexander. These aren't quiet lectures. They're loud, public, and unavoidable, like Dionysia's chorus, but with more brain pain. You're not just dodging donkeys, you're dodging questions that unravel your world. Mainstream fact Socrates, active around 470-399 BCE, pioneered the Socratic method, questioning everything to spark critical thinking. Quirky tidbit, he once stood frozen in thought for a full day. Barefoot, mid-agora. Imagine you, stuck, while carts swerve around him. Trade keeps this chaos alive. Olive oil, pressed by slaves, lights philosophers' lamps and greases their debates. Traded to Egypt for papyrus scrolls. Wine, fermented from Attic vines. Fuels symposiums where ideas flow. Shipped to Thrace for grain. Pottery, painted with scenes like those in the theater, carries Athens' reputation to Sicily. Slaves haul these goods through the agora's traffic, their labor the pulse of this intellectual hub. You're dodging a cart piled with oil jars, its driver cursing, and realize every scroll you read in school, every play you wept through, rides on this trade. Managing life means navigating this bustle, bartering for oil or dodging philosophers while keeping your chitin clean. This isn't just a busy market, it's a mental gauntlet. You're a boy, your school lessons echoing Socrates' questions. But now you're grilled in public, your answers mocked. Girls, your home, weaving. But your brother's tales of agora debates haunt you. The traffic's relentless carts, donkeys, slaves, and philosophers clog every path, and you're expected to keep up. You barter for olives, your dad's oil swapped for grain, while dodging a sophist who wants to charge you for wisdom. Historians still argue whether philosophy was Athens' genius or chaos did it birth reason, or just endless arguments. You're dizzy, not just from the dust, but from questions with no answers. A far cry from the theater's emotional storm. Insight into Greek history. You can't survive here because the agora's traffic, physical and intellectual, demands a resilience your modern self lacks. Athens in the 5th century BCE is a crucible of ideas, fueled by trade and war, where every kid's expected to navigate crowds and debates with equal grit. The Peloponnesian War's tension makes philosophers sharper, questioning authority while carts of olive oil fund the fight. Your social media brain, used to quick likes, can't handle this relentless probing, where a wrong answer means public shame. A day of dodging donkeys and Socrates would leave you mentally wrecked. But in Greece, it's how you grow up. You're caught in the agora's swirl, a cart nearly clipping your toes. Socrates still grilling you about virtue. You're a boy, wishing for school structure. Girls, your home. But the agora's chaos seeps into your loom's rhythm. The crowd's a mix of citizens, slaves, and medics, all hustling to trade oil, wine, pottery. You manage life by moving fast, bartering smart, and praying you don't trip into a philosopher's trap. Let's chuckle your rush hour bus is a breeze compared to dodging a wine cart and a sophist's ego. Another giggle. Some philosophers paid boys to argue with them. Imagine getting drachmas for sass. Grim one, a bad debate could mark you as unwise, tanking your social cred before puberty. Your head spinning, not just from Socrates, but from the agora's dust and noise. Boys, you're late for lessons, your tablet heavy with traded papyrus. Girls, you're weaving, but the market's oil jars are your family's lifeline. The sun's high and you're drained, the traffic's chaos mirroring the theater's emotional churn. You pass a stall, a slave selling olives, his hands calloused from trade's grind. You're not built for this, and Athens knows it. Philosophy's a street fight, and you're unarmed. You pause, the goat-like chaos of the agora overwhelming, a donkey's bray cutting through. You're out of your depth, and Greece doesn't pause. The day's grinding on, and you're dreaming of a world with fewer questions. But there's no escape. You're a kid in a city where trade and ideas collide, and you're caught in the crossfire. Surviving Greece isn't just about plays or fevers, it's dodging carts and queries that demand your soul. And trust me, The next hurdle, Ostracism's Pottery Peril, will make you wish you were only dodging Socrates' stare. You're weaving through the agora's chaos, your ears still ringing from Socrates' relentless questions. You're chitin dusted from dodging olive oil carts. You're an 11-year-old in Athens. Boy or girl, the sun scorching, and the memory of the Dionysius tragedies lingers like a bruise. You're trying to manage the market's traffic donkeys, slaves, pottery stalls when you overhear men muttering about ostracism. Athens' peculiar way of keeping egos in check. If you're too popular, too clever, or just too annoying, the city can vote you out, scribbling your name on broken pots. You're not even old enough to vote, but the idea of exile for being too much chills you. You wouldn't last a day under this pottery peril, and your modern need for likes would shatter faster than a dropped amphora. You're trailing your dad through the agora, clutching a water jug, the air thick with wine and olive scents from traded goods. The men's talk turns to the annual ostracism vote, held on the Phoenix Hill where the ecclesia meets. Once a year, citizens decide if someone's getting too big for their sandals, too powerful, too charismatic, or just too irritating. If enough agree, everyone grabs an ostracon, a shard of broken pottery, and scratches a name. Get 6,000 votes, and you're out, banished for 10 years, no trial, no appeal. You're a boy, wide-eyed at this power. Girls, you're home, weaving, but your brother's tales make you shiver. It's like the agora's traffic chaotic, unforgiving, but instead of dodging carts, you're dodging exile. You pause by a stall, a slave stacking wine jars from kiosks, and pick up a chipped pot shard. You could write a name on this maybe that loud sophist from yesterday, but you're too young to vote. Ostracism's not for criminals. It's for threats to democracy, like war heroes or smooth talkers who might turn tyrant. Aristides, called the Just, got booted because folks were sick of his virtue. Themistocles, who saved Athens at Salamis, was exiled for getting cocky. You're stunned when a war, save the city, and still get yeeted, mainstream fact ostracism, used from 487 BCE, aimed to prevent tyranny, a check on ambition in Athens' fragile democracy. Quirky tidbits, some ostraca had doodles or insults. Like ancient graffiti, imagine voting to exile someone with a cartoon of their bad haircut. Trade ties into this too. The pottery shards you'd use are scraps from amphorae that carried olive oil, wine, or grain, Greece's trade lifeblood. Olive oil, pressed by slaves, lights homes and funds Athens, traded to Egypt for papyrus. Wine, shipped to the Black Sea, buys wheat, pottery, painted with agora scenes, sails to Sicily. Slaves haul these goods through the market's traffic, their labor making ostracism's logistics possible. You're dodging a cart of oil jars, its driver cursing, and realize even exile votes ride on trade's back. Managing life means navigating this bustle while knowing one wrong step, too much fame. Too many enemies could land your name on a shard. This isn't just politics, it's a social sword hanging over everyone. You're a boy, dreaming of ecclesia debates, but too much charm could make you a target. Girls, you're weaving, safe from votes but not from whispers if your family's too prominent. Your dad's at risk. The agora's traffic mirrors, ostracism's stakes one misstep, and you're out. You hear men joke about banishing a loudmouth orator, and it hits you success. Here's a tightrope. Historians still argue whether ostracism protected democracy or punished talent. Did it save Athens from tyrants, or just clip its brightest stars? You're shaken, clutching your jug, the agora's chaos, a reminder stand out, but not too much. Insight into Greek history. You can't survive here because ostracism's a social trap in a trade-driven, war-torn Athens. The 5th century BCE is a pressure cooker, Peloponnesian War looming, trade routes strained, democracy fragile. Ostracism's meant to stabilize, but it breeds paranoia, punishing ambition while carts of olive oil fund the system. Your modern self, craving validation, can't handle a society where popularity's a crime. A day of dodging agora traffic and hearing exile talk would make you hide. But in Greece, hiding's not an option. You're in the game, like it or not. You're still in the agora, a donkey braying as it hauls pottery. The crowd's mutters about ostracism louder than the theater's chorus. You're a boy, late for school, your tablet heavy with traded papyrus. Girls, you're home, but the market's buzz seeps into your loom's hum. You manage life by staying small, fetch water, barter olives. Avoid Socrates' stare, but ostracism's a reminder. Even kids aren't safe if their family shines too bright. You pass a medic selling wine, his taxes funding the Tunics, yet he can't vote to exile anyone. The traffic's relentless carts, slaves, shouts, and you're expected to keep up, jug in hand, heart racing. Let's chuckle. Your class president race was drama, but at least it didn't end with a pottery shard ban. Another giggle. Some ostraca misspelled names imagine exiling Socrates with a K, like a bad group chat kick. Grim one exile meant leaving your home, friends, and olive oil stash, with no Zoom to stay connected. You glance at a man, too confident, haggling over wine jars, and wonder if he's next. Rich citizens flash saffron cloaks, but you're in dusty linen, your status clear a kid, not a threat yet. Your feet ache, the agora's dust coating your chiton, the traffic's chaos echoing the theater's emotional churn. Boys, you're off to lessons, dodging carts and exile talk. Girls, you're weaving, but the market's oil jars are your lifeline, the sun's high, and you're drained, not just from chores, but from a world where even heroes get voted out. You pass Athena's shrine, her owl glaring like she's tallying votes. Trades pulse oil, wine, pottery keeps Athens alive, but ostracism's the price of its freedom. You're not built for this, and Greece knows it. Fame's a trap, and you're barely surviving the traffic. You pause, the goat-like donkey bray cutting through, its load of pottery wobbling. You're outmatched, and Athens doesn't flinch. The day's dragging, and you're dreaming of a world without exile votes. But there's no escape. You're a kid in a city where trade and ambition collide, and ostracism's the referee. Surviving Greece isn't just about plays or questions. It's dodging a system that punishes stars while you clutch a jug. And trust me, the next hurdle death's constant shadow will make you wish you were only dodging pottery shards. You're stumbling through the agora's chaos, still rattled by Socrates' questions and the threat of ostracism's pottery shards. Your chiton dusted from dodging wine carts. You're an 11-year-old in Athens, boy or girl, the sun unrelenting, and the memory of the Dionysia's tragedies clings like damp linen. But as you navigate the market's bustle, a darker truth looms death's, a constant shadow here, lurking in every fever, spear, or moldy fig. You're not wondering if you'll die young in ancient Greece, just how soon and how painfully. The agora's traffic, with its olive oil and pottery, fuels life, but it can't outrun mortality. You wouldn't last a day in this death trap, and your modern reliance on hospitals would collapse faster than a poorly pinned chiton. Meanwhile, across the sea in Britannia, Boudicca's rebellion against Rome shows death's stakes in a different light, her fiery revolt echoing the chaos you're dodging. You're back home, sprawled on your straw mat, your body aching from drills or weaving. Life expectancy here hovers around 30-35 if you're lucky. 1 in 3 kids doesn't survive childhood disease. Malnutrition and that questionable water you hauled make infancy a gamble. You're 11, so you've beaten those odds, but danger's everywhere. A scratch from your strigil could turn septic, a fever could spiral, and no garlic compress will save you. War's a constant reaper. Boys, you're training for battles where a spear or infection could end you. Girls, childbirth looms as a future threat. Midwives, herbs, and prayers often fail, with mothers and babies dying in droves. You're coughing today, maybe from agora dust, and your mom's muttering about humors, her worry louder than the goat's bleat. death's not just physical, it's spiritual. Burial rites matter without coins for the ferryman Charon, your soul stuck wandering, a fate worse than your lumpy mat. Poor families, maybe yours, can't always afford proper funerals, leaving bodies dumped outside city walls, unmarked, forgotten. The plague of Athens, raging a decade ago during the Peloponnesian War, wiped out a third of the city. Thucydides survived to write about it. But most didn't. You hear whispers of it in the Agora, a reminder that disease doesn't care about your chitin or your dreams. Mainstream fact, the plague of Athens, 430, 426 BCE, killed up to 50,000, exposing Greece's medical limits. Quirky tidbit, some Greeks believed bad dreams caused illness. Imagine blaming your fever on that goat, haunting your sleep. Trade, the Agora's pulse, can't stop death. Olive oil, Greece's gold. Lights homes and heals wounds. Traded to Egypt for papyrus. Wine, shipped to Thrace. Doubles as medicine. Pottery carries both. It's clay shaped by slaves. But trade falters in war, and when plagues hit, no ship brings enough herbs. You're dodging carts in the Agora. Their oil jars your lifeline, but a bad batch of grain could poison you across the sea. Boudica's rebellion 6061 CE shows death's other face. Her Iceni and allied tribes burned Roman cities Camulodunum, Londinium, Verulamium, killing thousands. Rome's long-term response was brutal after crushing her. They tightened control, building forts, roads, and walls like Hadrian's to lock down Britannia. Governor Suetonius rebuilt cities, but Rome also softened its grip, offering tribes more autonomy to prevent future revolts. You hear tales of her in the Agora, carried by traders, her defiance a grim echo of Greece's own wars. This isn't just mortality, it's a culture of loss. You're a boy, training for a phalanx that might bury you. Girls, you're weaving, knowing childbirth's risks. The Agora's bustle slaves hauling wine, merchants shouting hides death's shadow. Historians still argue whether Greece's high mortality was due to poor medicine or constant war. Was it ignorance? Or did conflict starve progress in Britannia? Rome's response to Boudica forts, assimilation shows they learned to adapt, unlike Greece's stubborn reliance on prayers. You're shaken, clutching your jug. The traffic's noise a cruel reminder. Life's cheap and death's cheaper. Insight into Greek history. You can't survive here because death's a daily companion in a trade-driven, war-torn world. The Peloponnesian War, like Boudica's revolt centuries later, drains resources, spreads disease, and fills graves. Trade brings olive oil and wine, but no cure for plagues or battle wounds. Your modern self, used to ERs and vaccines, can't fathom a society where a cut or a war could end you. No safety net. A day of dodging death's threats, disease, spears, or bad figs would break you. But in Greece, it's just life. Your home, the slave girl sweeping, her silence heavier than your fever fears. Boys, you're dreading drills, knowing each spear thrust preps you for death. Girls, you're weaving, childbirth's shadow looming. The Agora's trade oil, wine, pottery keeps Athens alive, but not you. You hear your dad talk of Boudica, how Rome crushed her but rebuilt smarter, while Greece just fights and dies. Let's chuckle. Your flu-shot fears are nothing compared to dodging a plague with only a goat's blessing. Another giggle. Some Greeks buried coins in mouths, for Charon imagine your piggy bank funding your afterlife ferry. Grim won no burial rites, and your soul stuck, not even the Agora's bustle to distract you. Your body's heavy, whether from drills or looms, the sun's heat a reminder of your fragility. You pass Hestia's altar, its flame flickering, and whisper a prayer. But the gods are busy. Trade's goods oil, wine fill the agora, but they can't buy life. Boudica's story, whispered by traders, reminds you even rebels die, and Rome's forts rose from her ashes. You're not built for this, and Greece knows it. Death's a neighbor, not a guest. The day's fading, and you're dreaming of a world with band-aids and peace. You pause, the goat nibbling your sandal. Its ignorance a cruel comfort. You're outmatched, and Athens doesn't blink. The day's dragging, and you're haunted by mortality's weight. But there's no escape. You're a kid in a city where trade fuels life, but death takes it. Surviving Greece isn't just about questions or plays. It's outrunning a reaper who's always closer than the agora's carts. And trust me, the next hurdle gods demanding worship will make you wish you were only dodging death's shadow. You're limping away from the agora, the specter of death plague, war, or that cursed fig still chilling your spine, your chitin clinging like a traitor. You're an 11-year-old in Athens, boy or girl, the sun dipping but no less fierce. And the Dionysia's tragedies echo in your chest. You're dodging the market's carts, their olive oil jars rattling. When you pass a shrine to Zeus, its altar smoky with offerings. In ancient Greece, gods aren't just stories. They're demanding landlords, expecting constant worship, sacrifices, and perfect timing. You're muttering prayers, hoping you didn't offend Apollo, while juggling chores in a city humming with trade. You wouldn't last a day under this divine pressure cooker, and your modern chill would crumble faster than your maza breakfast. You're back home, the family goat bleeding as you light a flame at Hestia's altar. Your mom's eyes sharp to ensure you don't skip it. Every day starts and ends with rituals: pour wine for Zeus, burn herbs for Athena, pray to Demeter before planting. These aren't optional, mess up, and you're inviting plague, drought, or a rogue goat stampede. You're a boy, rushing to school. Girls, you're weaving. But both of you pause for prayers, the air thick with incense and fear. Temples dot Athens, their marble funded by olive oil trade, looming like divine HR offices. You're headed to the market later, but first, you offer a fig to Artemis, hoping she spares your sister's fever. Mainstream fact Greek religion, polytheistic and ritual-heavy, shaped daily life in the 5th century BCE, with temples as civic hubs. Quirky tidbit, some Greeks sacrificed black goats to Hades. Imagine you, kid, picking which bleeder gets the underworld express. Trade's economic pulse fuels this worship. Olive oil, Greece's gold, lights temple lamps and funds festivals, traded to Egypt for papyrus used in sacred scrolls. Wine, shipped to Thrace for grain, fills libations for Dionysus. Pottery, painted with gods, sails to Sicily, spreading Athens' faith. Slaves, hauling these goods, build altars and carry offerings, their labor tying worship to wealth. Economic changes, spurred by the Persian War's end in 479 BCE, boosted Athens' trade empire, swelling temple coffers with Delian League tributes. This cash, often silver from slave-worked Laurian mines, built the Parthenon, a Zeus-sized flex of piety and power. But war, like the Peloponnesian brewing now, strains trade routes, hiking oil prices and forcing cheaper offerings. Your family's fig might soon be a crumb. Gods are moody bosses. Zeus might zap your crops for a missed prayer. Hera, goddess of marriage, could curse your sister's wedding if you skimp on her offering. You're a boy, praying to Ares before drills, your spear heavy with divine stakes. Girls, you're invoking Aphrodite, hoping for a kind husband. Your looms hum a plea. Festivals, like the Panathenaea, are trade bonanzas, with oil jars and pottery prizes drawing merchants. You're dodging agora carts, their wine amphorae destined for temple altars, while managing life-fetch water, barter olives, pray on schedule. Historians still argue whether Greek religion unified society or exploited fear. Did rituals build community, or just keep you in line? You're frazzled, the goats bleat mocking your rushed prayer to Poseidon. Insight into Greek history. You can't survive here because the gods' demands, tied to economic shifts. Make every day a high-stakes audit. Post-Persian Wars. Athens trade boom olive oil, wine, pottery-funded lavish worship. But the Peloponnesian Wars costs now pinch poorer families like yours. You're caught in a cycle trade wealth builds temples, but war and divine wrath threaten it. Your modern self, used to casual Sundays, can't handle this relentless piety, where a bad offering means ruin. A day of juggling prayers and agora bustle would leave you spiritually bankrupt. But in Greece, faith's your only insurance. You're in the agora, a slave stacking oil jars for a Hera festival. The market's traffic, a divine deadline. Economic changes hit hard silver tributes once flowed, but wars draining the treasury, making oil scarcer, offerings leaner. You're a boy, late for school, praying Apollo doesn't smite your tardiness. Girls, you're home, weaving Athena's festival robe, your fingers raw. You manage life by praying fast, bartering oil for grain, and dodging carts while Zeus looms. The Parthenon's gleam, funded by trade, taunts your family's thinning purse. War's toll means fewer figs for Artemis, more worry for you. Across the sea, Rome's response to Boudicca's revolt forts. Roads, assimilation shows economic pragmatism. Greece lacks. It's gods demanding devotion over strategy. Let's chuckle. Your church potluck's a breeze compared to sacrificing a goat for Poseidon's mood swing. Another giggle. Some Greeks offered clay figurines instead of animals. Imagine you. Kid, DIYing a budget, God gift. Grim one miss a sacrifice, and your crops fail, leaving you hungrier than after Maza. You glance at a priest, splashing wine from a traded amphora, and feel the pressure. Rich men in saffron cloaks toss lavish offerings, but you're stuck with a wilted fig. Your piety is threadbare as your chitin. Your head throbs, whether from drills or looms. The agora's oil cart's a reminder of trade's divine grip. Boys, you're off to lessons, praying Hermes guards your path. Girls, you're weaving. Aphrodite's altar your only break. The sun's high, and you're spent, not just from chores, but from gods who never sleep. You pass Zeus's shrine, its smoke curling, and mutter a plea. But the gods are fickle. Trade's wealth oil, wine, pottery builds their temples, but war's economic squeeze makes worship harder. You're not built for this, and Athens knows it. Gods are tyrants, and you're their servant. You pause, the goat nibbling your sandal. Its ignorance a cruel piece. You're outmatched, and Greece doesn't blink. The day's fading, and you're dreaming of a world with fewer altars, but there's no escape. You're a kid in a city where trade funds faith, and gods demand your all. Surviving Greece isn't just about death or debates. It's pleasing deities who might smite you for a bad fig, while economic shifts tighten the screws. And trust me, the next hurdle, Greece's enduring legacy, will make you see why this chaos somehow shaped the world. You're dragging your feet from the agora, the weight of divine demands and that smoky Zeus shrine still heavy. You're chitin, a dusty wreck from dodging trade carts. You're an 11-year-old in Athens, boy or girl, the sun sinking but still warm, and the echoes of Socrates' questions, ostracism's threat, and death's shadow cling like damp linen. You've survived a day of Maza, Strigils, and gods, but ancient Greece's chaos, its wars, plagues, and relentless piety has you reeling. Yet, somehow, these sunburned, spear-wielding, olive oil-trading Greeks built a civilization that shaped the world. Their resilience a beacon through the mess. You wouldn't last a day in their sandals. And your modern need for Wi-Fi and comfort would fold before the first goat bleated. But their legacy endures, and it's worth a quiet nod before you drift off. You're back home, the courtyard dim, the family goat chewing something it shouldn't. You're a boy, bruised from phalanx drills, or a girl, hands raw from weaving, both haunted by a day where survival's a grind. Greece's gifts democracy, philosophy, theater weren't born in ease but in struggle. You saw it in the ecclesia, where men voted while slaves and women stood silent, in the agora, where Socrates grilled you and carts hauled olive oil, in the temples, where gods demanded figs or your fate. Athens, in the 5th century BCE, was a crucible the Peloponnesian War raged. Trade routes faltered, yet they built the Parthenon, its marble gleaming through slave sweat and silver. Mainstream fact, the Parthenon, completed in 438 BCE, symbolized Athens' power, funded by Delian League tributes and Laurian mines. Quirky tidbits, some Greeks believed statues like Athena's held divine spirits. Imagine you, kid, praying to a marble giant that might blink back. Economic changes drove this legacy. Olive oil, Greece's lifeblood, lit temples and fueled trade to Egypt for papyrus, shaping scrolls that preserved Homer. Wine, traded to Thrace, filled symposiums where Plato debated. Pottery, shipped to Sicily, spread Greek art, but wars cost ships, soldiers. Plagues pinched these profits, forcing Athens to lean on slaves and tributes. You're dodging agora carts, their oil jars, your family's income, but prices rise as war disrupts supply. Across the sea, Rome's response to Boudicca's revolt 60-61 CE showed economic savvy post-rebellion. They built forts and roads, boosting trade while tightening control. Greece, stubborn, poured silver into temples, not infrastructure, leaving you to pray for stability while hauling water. This resilience wasn't just survival, it was creation. You're a boy, reciting Homer in school, his epics outlasting empires. Girls, you're weaving, but your threadwork mirrors the Parthenon's precision. Theater, from Section 10, gave you tragedies that still echo in modern plays. Philosophy, from Section 11, birthed logic you'd recognize in your phone's code. Greeks questioned everything gods, justice, death while dodging spears and plagues, their ideas carved in stone and papyrus. Historians still argue whether this was genius or grit. Did Athens thrive because of chaos, or despite it? You're exhausted, your chitons stained. But you see it, they built a world while sweating through it. Unlike you, wilting at the first sunburn. Insight into Greek history. You can't survive here because Greece's brilliance came from a brutal crucible you're not forged for. The 5th century BCE, with its wars and economic shifts, demanded constant adaptation. Trade-funded temples, but war drained them. Democracy empowered some, but excluded most. Your modern self, used to instant answers and safety nets, can't handle a society where every day tests your body and soul. A day of dodging carts, gods, and death would crush you, but Greeks turned chaos into culture, their legacy a fire that burns through time. You're slumped by Hestia's altar, its flame flickering, the goats bleat a faint hum. Boys, your spears heavy with the weight of future wars. Girls, your looms a silent song of endurance. The agora's trade oil, wine, pottery built this world, but war's shadow looms. You hear whispers of Boudica, her rebellion, a distant mirror of Greece's defiance. Rome's roads a contrast to Athens' altars. You're not built for this, and Greece knows it. Resilience here means creating beauty from pain, something your soft world can't grasp. Let's chuckle, your group project stress is nothing next to building the Parthenon under war's threat. Another giggle, Greeks used olive oil for everything: lamps, wounds, bribes. Your shampoos got nothing on it. Grim one failed to adapt, and you're a footnote, not a statue. As the day fades, you sink deeper into your straw mat, the courtyard softening into shadows. The goats bleat a distant lullaby. The sun's glow dims, and Athens' bustle, its carts, prayers, and relentless questions slips into a quiet hum, like a fan spinning softly in your modern room. You've walked through Greece's heat, its wars, its gods, and seen how they carved meaning from chaos, their legacy whispering in every book you read, every debate you hear. You're not built for their world, but you don't have to be. Let their strength carry you. Their stories cradle you. The agora's gone still. The gods are resting, and so can you. Close your eyes. Let the olive oil scent fade and drift into a world where survival's softer, dreams gentler, and sleep wraps you like a warm hymation. Rest now. Kid, you've earned it.